So, welcome. Today I'm
Thank
here with
you.
Abby Bolton, and
Thanks.
this is the first in a series of interviews I will be doing with entrepreneurs, and it's called From Intuition to Entrepreneurship. And we're just going to have a casual conversation about Abby's journey and how she moved herself from being a change communication consultant to being a full-time artist. So, welcome.
Thank you.
So I've known you for a while, but I think it would be really great if you introduced yourself to the audience so that they can get to know you a little bit better. So
Sure.
go ahead.
I'm Abby Bolton. I live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. As Barbara mentioned, I started my career actually in marketing communications and then transitioned those skills into change management consulting. So, working with companies to roll out new initiatives and softwares, any kind of culture change, and preparing people for what that change would be like and making sure they had the skills they need. So, um, very complex infrastructures and partnering with business leaders to craft the right solution for their situation. I was with a consulting company for 10 years, here in performance, and uh, had a little bit of time with in a in-house corporate setting. And my team of almost 20 was laid off about a year and a half ago. So I didn't take it personally. And it actually maybe felt like divine intervention because that allowed me a little bit of time and space to focus on painting, which has been a long time love of mine. But so I was always an artist, but in an informal capacity. And thought I needed like a whole day without my kids around to take the paints out and really do something. But what I found a few months prior to the layoff, actually, I discovered this form of painting called fluid acrylics. And once I saw it, I just couldn't get enough of it. And it sort of just opened me up because I had always painted in a more realist style. Having this abstract approach that literally was about going with the flow really opened me up to artistry. And I just started weaving it into my everyday and experimenting. And I do it with my kids, I do it by myself, um, and learning and just tapping into that. And so once it was almost like letting the cat out of the bag. It was not going back in. And so it turned on this passion that I've always had for painting in this new way. And I did then they say, okay, launched my website, abbyboltonarts.com. But then I thought, well, I need to get a real job. And I took a contract position that was a sort of a contract to hire, and it was a 4-month commitment. And then we started talking about them bringing me on full time, and it wasn't the first time I had heard my inner wisdom or soul calling to me, and at this time, I would say it was screaming to me, "This is not right. This is not what where you are anymore. This isn't aligned with who you are." Um, and so I had to listen. And I told them, thank you, but I'm not going to take the full-time position. I need to recalibrate. And I did. And I surprised a lot of people in my family. I was planning it in more of a long-term way, like, oh, I'll just transition into art once, but I had to do it. And I did. And what that allowed me to do was not be like a crazy person who had two jobs,
Mm.
and, really channel my energy and focus into growing this new thing.
Mm. Wow, what a amazing story. Sounds like your soul was really, you know, calling you to express itself more. When that calling is really strong, it's smart for us to follow. So I have many questions for you, but maybe for the listeners, maybe you can say a word or two about fluid acrylic painting. Is that what we see behind you? Is that one of your paintings?
It is, yes. That is galvanic tides. I've
Okay.
never used an adjective for galvanizing until that title came to me, but it just, it's a great example of the real kind of motion you can feel, even though the paint is dry, from this medium. But Yeah, just at its basic level, fluid acrylics is a method where you water down the paint, not always with actual water, but certain mediums and things like that, so that it flows freely. And you can. It's often called poured painting,
Okay.
or liquid art. Um, so you apply it rather than with a brush. You can pour it and apply it in different ways. You sort of and then tilt and manipulate it to create your design. And I personally use a lot of palette knife to do some more representational things sometimes. Maybe
Mm,
over here you see the tree in the corner. That's the tree
okay.
of life and metamorphosis. It's a print of it.
Okay.
Um, and so, yeah, it's sort of like I use the breath to manipulate. I use hair dryers sometimes to blow the paint in certain ways. So pretty much anything but a brush.
That's cool. Awesome. What do you would say was kind of the hardest thing for you in making this huge giant step?
I when I made the step and I sort of, people around me, my family and such, I said, I know I can do this. I had a knowing that I could do it, but I have never been an entrepreneur before. And so there was a learning curve and still is, I'm early on in this, only 8 months into it. Um, a learning curve for just like sort of the bones behind the business piece and working with my own, I'm a creative. So sometimes I'm a little scattered. I have a lot of things going on, and um I'm a single mom. And so yeah, just balancing time and energy to make sure that I'm directing it in the right places. And being a successful artist is as much about marketing your art as it is about making it. Um, and we're lucky that in this day and age, artists have more direct access to buyers versus sort of the older gallery model. But that requires a lot of attention to putting it out there. So I was and am well served by a marketing communications background. It's not hard for me to write in a clear or compelling way about what I'm doing. At least I don't think it is. And so that has come in handy. But I think it's sort of like the back end business things and tracking, get your business taxes, the the sole proprietor stuff. But I'm working it out. And you've been a great help to me. Barbara's an expert entrepreneur.
Um, Thank you. Yes, I've had my share. My share. Well, it's true. I always say after 25 years, the biggest challenge as an entrepreneur is still like, where's your next sale coming from? And that's something that's ongoing.
Right.
So, the only difference is when you've been doing it for 25 years is that you have a track record. And so you know that you can sell. So it's important. And it's really also important to have the structure. So, I really believe in values and identifying values, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're an individual, whether you're a corporate CEO. So what are some of the values, your personal values that really are matching or you're expressing now that you are doing this artwork?
Yeah. Um, well, authenticity is a big one. And that was something that I really got in touch with as in my corporate roles, they started to feel less and less like the right fit for me as I grew and evolved as a person on my own journey. Um, and it was very important to me that I be who I am no matter where I am. And so authenticity, and especially because this work feels like the truest expression of who I am. And that's why I think it felt so good when I really allowed myself to dip into it. Um, authenticity and just relatability, because in this day and age when we're on social media so much, and I just think it's so important to be real and not to be showing the airbrushed version all the time of ourselves,
Mm,
because that's not life.
right.
Um, and I mean, communication has always been one. So I was a communicator by trade, but it's very important to me that it goes with authenticity, really. It's sort of like speaking your truth and understanding other people's and making deep connections that way. Um, and loving kindness. I would say these are the top three for me. Leading with love and listening to one's heart and empathizing with the hearts of others um, are very foundational to how I live my life. And when I have the very enjoyable opportunity to do custom artwork uh, for mostly women these days, we can talk about inspired journey paintings, but it's very much about like understanding the core of who they are and what the truth of who they are is and where they want to be and how they want to show up in their lives. And so it's important to me that I provide a container for that and um, make them, feel that they can divulge things to me so that I can better understand what makes them, their true essence. And then I articulate it in a symbolic way in a work of art.
So it sounds to me like that for you, realizing your own values and living your values is sort of the foundation of, the inspired soul journey paintings. And you just described a little bit what that is, but what does that really look like? Like, I'm curious. Like, if I wanted to have a painting like that, what does that entail?
Well, so the end goal is an inspired journey painting is it does all the things that you want great custom art to do. It reflects your personality and it integrates with your decor and elevates your space. Um, you know, uh, but it is also a symbolic it symbolizes and reinforces your personal vision or your intention, either for the year or for, we all start off in the year like, my theme for the year is lightness, and that's actually an example of a painting I just did for a woman who said, I want to feel lightness this year. And, but it's easy to let go of that stuff because life gets in the way and we get stressed and busy and, pulled in different directions. And so the idea of this is to have something beautiful that is a visual cue to you that reminds you of that intention and it's in your line of sight every day and it's almost like a little visual sanctuary for you when things get crazy to reground into what you care the most about and what matters to you and how you want to be. And maybe that's the cue you need to say, hey, like all this stuff that I'm getting caught up in really doesn't matter, or you know what, I could do this. I'm strong. It can be something that just reminds you of the truth of who you are when you feel a little lost, briefly lost, and bring you back. So when the things that we have in our eyesight that we think about every day, I think most of us know that that creates your reality. And so whether you buy into, manifesting your dreams in a straightforward sense or not, directing your attention to things that matter to you that you want to happen is going to get you there faster.
So it sounds kind of like an affirmation. One of the ways that I work with my clients, my coaching clients, is that I assist them to craft a personal affirmations, like a heart statement that really describes who they are and also how they want to express themselves in the world. So it's almost like that's like a visual representation of that in some sense, which is powerful because it changes your
Absolutely.
neuroplasticity, and that ultimately gives us the opportunity to have new experiences and to see ourselves differently. So that sounds amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's sort of like a amplified affirmation or visual affirmation and like a vision board times 1,000, but way more beautiful and fun
Yeah,
art.
yeah,
What I like to say.
like a beautiful vision board. Like I have a vision board. I have actually several boards that I did over the year, but it's like that's like a just beautiful, vision
Right.
board. That's awesome. Um,
Mhm.
I want to come back to, entrepreneurship for a moment, because you said earlier that you didn't see yourself, as ever being an entrepreneur. But now, as you're moving into that, where do you find that you had innate entrepreneurial skills that you didn't even know that you had?
Well, um, I think that my strength in connecting with people and building relationships, which did and have done in my personal life, but also as a consultant, very, very relationship based. That's how you build the best client relationships. I think that definitely translates into what I'm doing now. And, as you said, the sort of like the sales pipeline, that's a new idea for me because I was not in that kind of drumming up business role in consulting. Um, but the aspect of really getting to know people and their specific situation and then tailoring something, a solution to meet that need, right, it's very aligned. And I'm really interested when we meet. I didn't really get into the process of like how would I do it, inspired journey painting with you, but um, when I meet with anybody, whether they want custom art or they're just maybe interested in something from my website, or they're just not sure. They're just like, I've got this wall and I'm sick of looking at it and I want some help. A lot of times people are like, I'm not this person, so I need your opinion and guidance. And so I'm happy to do that. And the kind of guiding star for that isn't just like what does the rest of the room look like or your house, but it's what are your goals for this space? Like how do you use it? How do you want to use it? And how do you want to feel there? And then how do we foster that feeling with the art, whether that's custom or not? So um yeah, I find that has translated a lot. And as I already mentioned, having a marketing communications, some expertise in that has been helpful. Like I can make my own promotional postcards like I did the other day and things like that.
That's amazing. Um, you said early on you were a single mom. How is it being a single mom and starting your own business and having to juggle all these things, at the same time?
It's cray cray, Barbara. um, it is challenging, but also because I am my own boss and I create the structure and the cadence, I have the flexibility that I need to do the kid stuff. And when there are I have a kid with special needs as well, so there's an additional layer of coordination and doctors and support and just sort of being nimble. Like sometimes you don't know if both kids are going to be at school that day or not. Um, and so it's allowed me the flexibility that I can't really, it'd be hard to imagine being beholden to a full-time position. And there's certain kinds of expectations while managing all this. So I think this is a part of me designing my life in a way that serves me and my family, and not only allows me to express that's sort of what I consider to be my gifts and my soul's purpose, um, through art, but it also is creating a structure that's more conducive to the needs of my family right now because I've got two little kids that are 8 and 5.
Hmm. Yeah, that's challenging, because we don't know. We don't know if they're sick tomorrow, and we don't know, what's going on. So there's a lot of disruption with the schedule.
And being the
What's
only adult, obviously, in the home, on a
Yeah,
consistent
the
basis.
adult. That's right. So,
Yeah.
what's next? You've been doing this for 9 months, 10 months, how long?
Eight, about
Eight.
eight full time.
Eight.
It's almost, I think I launched my website in the beginning of June last year. So we're almost at a year of having a website and about eight
Wow.
months of being full time.
So
Um,
what's next?
mhm.
Where you headed? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, this is a very exciting time. I recently rented a studio in Pittsburgh,
Wow.
at a place called 412 Studios. Yeah, because, I've been wanting a better way other than come to my house, and see my paintings, for people to really see them in person if they're local and can get here. Certainly people see them online, but, like most art, but I think fluid art in particular, just because of the different details and nuances when you get very close to it, it's a different experience and it's more powerful when you see it in person. So I've been wanting to get my work out there and provide opportunities for people to interact with it. Um, I also just wanted more space. I've been working out of a little studio in my basement, and was finding that I was getting, there were just paintings everywhere. So now my studio has ample space to also welcome people in. It's sort of a multitasking uh, venue. I'll create work there, and people can come and sort of see my process and what I'm working on right now. And I will also have it set up like a gallery. And I'm having an opening reception week from, well, later this week, Friday, April 19th. And it's from 5 to 8. And anyone is welcome. And that's exciting. And I'm also planning for my first official workshop, which I call Fluid Creativity Workshop.
Okay.
And it's centered around inspiration painting. So, I talked about the custom inspired journey paintings,
Right.
and they are a very bespoke, special thing, right? But not everybody is in a position to commission a painting. And so this is an opportunity for anybody to really create their own mini inspired journey painting, and join me in my studio for 2 hours in a group setting. This can be an event this is sort of tailored to women in this case. So they can sign up on my website for the May 2nd event, which is in partnership with a really cool Pittsburgh based organization called the Salon Pittsburgh. Their mission is really just about like creating a sort of collective living room for brilliant women in Pittsburgh to learn and grow together. Very
Nice.
cool. Yes, salonpgh.com. Um, and
Hmm.
so in these sessions, you'll get a brief introduction to fluid painting and how to approach it. And everyone who comes is asked to bring an affirmation or an intention
Okay.
or a focal point that they are wanting to manifest and stay on track with. And we'll have 4 color palettes already kind of selected that correspond with the elements, earth, wind, water,
Okay.
fire. And you can choose the one that you're most drawn to, or that aligns the most with the idea that you're trying to bring into being. And then we will create your own masterpiece with my guidance, and you don't need any artistic experience or background to do this and to get something out of it, because the nature of fluid art is so accessible, and that's why like anyone can try it. Obviously I've honed it, and I'm doing certain things that you would have just do after a 15-minute introduction, but you can make some very cool things, and the experience of making it and sort of it tends to prompt wonder and joy from people, is what I find. And that was what I experienced initially too, like, wow, like you just never know what you're going to make. And so we'll think symbolically, in a sense of like, how might I reflect this idea of like expressing my true self, or um being focused, or continuing to move forward. How might I say that in a visual way?
Hmm.
Uh, and whatever you end up with, whether it is deeply symbolic or representative of the idea, you've put your intention into it and that energy into it in creating it. So no matter how it turns out, although I'm sure it will be lovely, it's still serving the purpose. It's going to be that visual cue to you. So we'll make smaller ones, like a 12 by 12 or 11 by 14, something like that. But it's something that you can um, put in your line of sight on your desk or in your kitchen or living room, wherever you are, to give you that reminder and keep you on track. And I love crystals. You can see some in the background, and they've been known to have metaphysical properties and to support different things in our lives. Like amethyst, supports intuition, or green stones like aventurine support healing. So because I use crystals often in my paintings, which is I think a unique aspect of them. I'll also have some crystals around if people want to further embellish their creations with crystals because they like how they look, or because they have certain meanings that support what they're trying to do.
How do you deal with, people that are critical when they embark on a creative process? I remember years ago that I went to a birthday party and, we all had to we all got a canvas, and they gave us, 5 colors, and then we had to. I don't think we had to paint what they wanted us to paint. We could do whatever we wanted, but it was still, most of us, we walked out there with, mm, what am I going to do with this? I'm not so happy. I don't really like it. So, and we have that inner critic of that is strong, sometimes stronger in some of us than others. That we like to put ourselves down. So, how are you going to deal with that? People feel like they're not creative enough, and really give them an experience where they can walk away and say, "Oh my God, look at that! I did this. This is great, and I feel good about it."
Yeah. Well, I mean, my intention is to foster an environment that is very kind of like free and fun and uplifting and supportive. Um, I think it is a lot harder to criticize your creation of a fluid artwork or an abstract artwork than it is when someone who is not particularly inclined to representational art, like if you're not a drawer or a painter, and you try to draw a portrait or whatever, a still life, you're probably not going to be very happy with it right away, because it does take a lot of time to hone those skills for something to look realistic. With abstract art, there's definitely still skill involved, but it doesn't have the same kind of structure or universal rules. And so there's much more freedom. Um, and
Mm,
so I think I will emphasize that, and uh, just remind us of our purpose there. It isn't really to become a prolific artist. It's to create a um, a work of art that can remind you of what you want for yourself in your life.
mm. Yeah,
So hopefully people see the beauty in that no matter what it looks like, really.
yeah. I think that's it's a good point in that giving people the opportunity to express themselves and freely and have fun and enjoy themselves, and then just to see what they create, and not be attached to necessarily
Yeah.
having to look a certain way.
Yep. And I found that experience for myself. I had a much stronger inner critic when I was doing, I mean, I can do representational art and I have, but I think like most artists, I'm always thinking, oh, is this good enough? Is this realistic enough? Is it?
Right.
So, yeah, to go with the flow and let go of like where it's going to end up. Like when I set out to do a painting, sometimes I have a rough plan. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I'm like, I just need to make a painting, and I'm just gonna do it and see what happens. And then I start tweaking it with palette knives or whatever. And then I think, I don't really. I'm gonna pour more of this color here and tilt that and see what happens then. And so it really morphs and changes, and that's a lot of I say I'm a soul inspired artist because it's a lot of intuition,
Mm,
not always knowing where you're going to end up, kind of like just trusting the next step.
right. What advice do you have for people that want to, not maybe be a soul inspired artist, but people that are, their soul is starting to get louder, and the soul's pulling them in a different direction, and yet you have the construct of, oh, I need to be in a 9 to 5 kind of job, or I'm in, this is what's expected of me. What advice do you have for people?
It's tricky because it does feel scary to take a leap or do something unexpected or change lanes after you've invested in one area for so long, or that's what you're known for, or that's what you went to school for, whatever. I mean, I think fundamentally listening to the voice inside you, whether you attribute that to your soul's voice or just, your true self, um, is really, really important, because when we ignore it, um, our body can rebel. We could have pain or disease or, um, depression, anxiety. So I don't think now I did take a rather drastic leap, and I was kind of pushed into it because of the layoff gave me it gave me some severance, a little space to experiment with this. And I knew that that was in me, right? And something like I always, when people would ask even in the corporate world, like as a little icebreaker, like, hey, if you could be anything, this really happened several times as an icebreaker. Like, if you could be anything and money was no object, what would you be? And it was like painter, always. And so
So you knew
I
already.
feel very, huh?
You didn't have to hunt around for it.
No, not at all. And I remember feeling something that I didn't even truly understand, like when I would paint years ago. That was when I thought I needed a whole day to do it by myself. Just the feeling of the brush on the paper or on the canvas with paint, like there was just something about it that I was like, I feel like myself. And I only do this like once a year at that point because I have little kids. So there was an activation there. So I would say like pay attention to when you feel activated by things in a unique way and don't just brush it off.
Right.
Um, I will also say that this this career change, Barbara knows this about me, has been a part of many personal changes that I've made in the last 2 or 3 years. Um, I ended my marriage. I have moved multiple times. Leaving tier one after 10 years, that was my first job in 10 years. Going to a new organization, that was a big change. And it all kind of happened around the same time. And I would say the scene for being able to make feeling like I had to make those shifts was set through really years of sort of like I grew up as a Reform Jew and I still am, identify as Jewish, but I definitely had a spiritual awakening of sorts where became aware of the spiritual realm and, um, guides and angels and all of those things, which I've now sort of integrated into maybe a broader understanding of spirituality. And that path has I think given me the agency to tune into like what am I hearing, whether it's from me or from somewhere else, uh, and what is my purpose, and some of those more faith-based ideas, but that also made me realize like we're not here to suffer. I don't need to suffer through life. If I'm really unhappy in my marriage, and so is he, then we shouldn't have to do that for eternity. We
Right.
are the creators of our life and we can make choices that allow us to be fully who we are. And so, nothing against the father of my children, who's a lovely person, but as people grow and evolve, they need to change in different ways. And so I found uh, an expansion in my freedom to do that and in the sort of creating a new home for myself and my kids in whatever way felt right to me. And so and each time we make these, somewhat little changes, maybe in isolation to get a new job or, oh, lay off now, another job search, or hey, I'm just gonna look into what it would take to make a website for my artwork. Um, you get momentum and you get more and more comfortable. So I guess, I don't know, kind of full circle moment because this I guess is change management, right? The only constant is change. So I've learned to personally navigate change and it becomes more and more comfortable. And so, I do have, and I'm very grateful for this language. But people often say, "Wow, you're courageous." They say courageous a lot because they're like, "Damn, I wouldn't leave my my established career and that steady paycheck to become an artist randomly at 41." Um, Not so randomly because I've always been an artist, but to most people, it seems completely out of left field.
Right.
Um, and it is an uphill climb, just like starting any business is. But it, it just feels like what I need to be doing, and people are responding really well to my art and are affected by it and want to surround themselves by it. So that is a great honor. And so I'm doing it. So back to your question, I would just really like encourage people to tune into what feels right to them,
Mhm.
to just take the little steps and start putting things in place.
Mhm.
I'm not encouraging anyone to just quit their job with no with no backup savings or whatever to float them, but um, you deserve to create a joyful life for yourself that feels purpose driven. And so it is my hope that my story and my artwork inspire other people, and especially women, to take some of those bold moves that might be needed to shift their reality into something that allows them to be the full expression of who they are.
That's awesome. Yes, we do deserve to be happy. We do all deserve to live our purpose, and to be inspired and to inspire. And I think you're lucky in that you knew what you wanted to do. So some of my clients, they come to me and they know what they're doing right now is not, that's not it, but they're not necessarily sure what they want to do, or if they want to be an entrepreneur. I've written a book, and you know about this, but just to let the viewers know about it. It's called From Intuition to Entrepreneurship, and it's really an outline on how to generate ideas around entrepreneurship, and then to vet the idea and to make sure that the idea is in alignment with who you are. And once you've vetted it, then you can sort of say, okay, I have my idea, now I know what I want to do. And then it's important to do the inner work, the make sure that you're aligned with the beliefs, and that you are clear of what you want, and you have the confidence, as well as, I'm a big believer in, yes, get the business plan, do all that. And so then you can match up the two things so that you can be successful
Absolutely.
as an entrepreneur, really.
Yes.
I also was lucky that I got a little hint from the universe. I was working full time, and then I got laid off as well. And I had to decide, do I want to be a coach full time, or do I want to look for another corporate job? And I decided to do the coaching full time. And, I do remember it was sort of like a leap of faith. It's like, no, I really love doing this. Coaching was really fulfilling me, and I felt like it was making a difference. And then I just jumped into the full-time coaching, and here we are 23 years later. I'm still doing it. So
Having impacted countless lives, including mine, so significantly. I haven't said a whole lot about that yet. But yeah, your gifts and that combination of the practical and the intuitive and the rewiring through neuroemotional coaching and neuroemotional technique, like it's just an amazing combination. And you are very intuitive in a way that impresses me on a regular basis, even though I've known you now for over a decade. So I think seeking out the support when you say, like, what are some of the things you had to overcome? I mean, I needed mentorship, from other entrepreneurs, which I've had from you, and I'm in a small group coaching of Barbara's group that is fabulous, and so those women are very supportive too, many of whom are entrepreneurs also. And so I really think, I also had to kind of seek out specific specific techniques for art marketing, because it is sort of like its own thing. But Barbara actually has been an artist too, so she even has expertise in that area. So
that's true.
you are a fabulous resource. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you. Okay, we are about to finish this wonderful interview. I want to thank you. It's been so great. Do you have any final words of wisdom that you want to leave our viewers with?
There is a Native American quote, part of which I often think of, and that is, listen to your heart, it knows. And I often write that on the back of my paintings, because that's what I did. But I just feel like it's all in that, right? Listen to your heart; it knows,
It does
and don't
certainly.
ignore it too long.
No, no, listen to your heart. That's wonderful. I thank you
Mm-hmm.
for that. Well, thank you, thank you, thank you for coming. And we will
Yeah.
post all the details about the art opening and how to get in touch with Abby if you're interested in, looking at the or purchasing any of her artwork, or interested in booking a workshop with her. You'll find that.
Yeah.
And I wish you nothing but success. I'm sure if we have this conversation again in a few years, it will be amazing what you will have created for yourself and so many others. So until then, Take care.